Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, ladies and gentlemen. I know some of you have been requesting a bookshelf tour, so I will not be able to cover all the books that I have, and so I'll just briefly show you what I have, and I'll point out to you some of the important books that would probably, inshallah, benefit you. As a way of organization, that's me by the way, as a way of organization, I've actually sectioned off my books into certain categories. That was the initial plan when I built this up, but I've not maintained them. But I would say about 75% of the structure is still here, and so you'll find books out of place. And to me, practicality is the most important thing, and sometimes it's much easier for me to just seated there, which is what I'm normally be seated on when I make these videos. And also this video is also behind the scenes kind of thing. So yeah, so without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. I'll probably begin with this section down here, and move all the way there. And so down here I probably have, I apologize if the light is poor, perhaps this is a much better camera length. And so here I have some language books on Russian, book by Hamza Thotis, and here is some readings from the ancient Near East. And if you are familiar with the Torah, the Injil, and the Quran, not I believe the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, and the New Testament is the Injil, not the Torah, but speaking as it is, you start to find many parallels in the ancient Near Eastern texts. And so reading the ancient Near East is actually a background to understanding some of the paganistic cultures and civilization, which the Quran make references to, ironically. Okay. Now, for example, Ibrahim alayhi salam was from Babylon. Okay, and that part of the area, the Sumerians, according to this Professor Samuel Noah Kramer, was amongst the first to do some things, okay, because they were the first civilization. And so there's a lot of history going on here, and it will help you understand the Quranic narrative, the Quranic story even more. In particular, this book Babylon, the late Paul Kriwazek. Interesting read. The pages is all, the spine is broken. I've used it so much. If you read the Hebrew Bible, you start to realize that there's so many parallels. The authors of the Hebrew Bible were indeed interacting with the culture and civilization of the past. And there's so much history and so much context that you'll miss out actually if you do not explore the ancient Near East. By the way, this is just a printer I've covered to prevent dust from entering the print hole. The Silk Roads, very important if you want to know about the Central Asian culture. Very important. Peter Frankopan, and this is this has nothing to do with it. The Vikings and early Southeast Asian history. Again, this is nothing to do with my channel, but this is just some history that I also enjoy. History of the ancient Near East is very important as well. This one is an edition by Wiley Blackwell. It has plates inside. So you can see it has plates inside, it has photographs, and you can see some of these photographs. Not that it is necessary, because you can find all this online, but a history of the ancient Near East, again, very very important for you to actually understand the social history, the cultural history of the ancient Near East, especially in particular if you are a student of the Hebrew Bible. This is so important to you that you cannot actually miss out. Which is why I have a dedicated section here on Romans, the ancient Greece, ancient Greeks, ancient Egyptian, all to provide me a cultural and historical background to the text that we found in the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, as well as the New Testament. We'll get into the New Testament and the Quran on the other side here, but totally recommend A History of the Ancient Near East. Get anyone that is published and written by academics, written by professor from prestigious universities, or by prestigious publication like Wiley Blackwell, for example. You'll never go wrong. Next we have some Soviet history here that I have, the World War history, which I also enjoy, but that has nothing to do with my channel. A Universe from Nothing. I also enjoy getting into the atheistic discourses, but then again, I'm not interested in actually getting into this field on my YouTube channel. A lot of the times you'll find that I have some books which I just enjoy reading. For example, I enjoy learning languages, though I'm not always the best. It is not my forte by all means. But you start to see that I also have some hieroglyphic books to study, so on and so forth. But apart from my channel, History and Theology, I also enjoy the European history, like history in medieval Europe, for example. But all these have nothing to do with my YouTube channel. But nevertheless, I still enjoy learning about the history of the Middle Ages, okay, about Australia, the woman of the past, medieval medicine, the empire of the Indus Valley, which is the subcontinent, okay, India, Pakistan by the Indus River, how Australia was actually founded. The Aborigines were slaughtered mercilessly by the oncoming Brits down there. History of the Byzantium. Okay, this is also very important. The Quran obviously mentioned Rome. Okay, and civilization of the Renaissance, Italy, to understand more about the culture. And so this is about the Incas. Okay, the Incas, and how the Incas were eliminated, decimated, basically. Again, a very very important history in the human civilization, as far as human civilization is concerned. I'll try not to cover some of these unrelated books because it'll take us forever. Fortress of the Muslim. Every household should have this. This is the edition by Dakwah Corner. It's about 20 ringgit Malaysia. It's about $5 US or so. But this print is great. The feel is much better. The Quran, translation of the Quran, Abdullah Yusuf Ali, the classic. And also we have some more historical books. A book about languages, a book about history of religion, a book about philosophy. This is a very great introduction. Although all these books are written for kids, okay, but nevertheless you can still read them as an adult. History of archaeology, the fall of ancient Greece. Herodotus is very important, the father of history. You need, if you are interested in ancient civilization, you need to have Herodotus in your library, in your collection. This one is SPQR, Mary Beard. A History of Ancient Rome. This will provide you the understanding, especially when it comes to the New Testament era. This is how Rome was founded, the myth, the legend, and what was historical and what was not. And it also has plates in it. And Alexander the Great, a lot of Muslims claim that Zulkarnain was Alexander the Great, but if only they read the biography of Alexander the Great, they'll change their mind. And the fall of ancient Rome, very, very important work. Gideon, this is the much latest version by Oxford, but Edward Gibbon's, if I can remember correctly, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire. I forgot the author of that, but this is the latest one when it comes to that history. Moving up, this is Forgotten Civilization by Robert Schoch and Catherine Ulisi. This is also fantastic. It talks about all the ancient civilization. Okay, the Quran mentions that travel the land and see what remains of all these ancient civilization. Some of them we can see and some of them we can't really see. And so this book is also great for me to go and explore. What are these ancient civilizations that the Quran is probably talking about? And you'll find a lot of these ancient civilization that some of us we have not even heard of. Yeah, so I will recommend you this book. Get the expanded edition. On top here we have History of Ancient Egypt, the origin of the Sphinx, the origin of ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt here. This is The Rise and Fall of Ancient Egypt by Toby Wilkinson. These are all background context to my study of the Hebrew Bible. If you want to know the cultural, the historical context, the societal context of the Anbiya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, the Prophet Joseph, Yusuf, Yaqub, okay, Moses, you definitely need to know the historical context, because that would actually put you into perspective. Okay, what was the people of the time of Musa probably like? What was the culture of the time of Moses probably like? And if you do not read the history of that particular time, that particular era, you will not know how those people actually live. Now, I'm not saying that history is a confirmed science. In fact, it is the most weakest of all the sciences when it comes as far as study is concerned. But nevertheless, you have to depend on something. You can't just depend on hearsay or data that you invented yourself. All these are based on archaeological data, writings, inferences, educated guesses. But nevertheless, I would say that about 70% is actually based on hard facts, based on tangible data that we have that doesn't leave a lot of room for interpretation. Even though this statement doesn't seem necessarily always the case, but as long as we work our data or we work based on solid data, then at least we are grounded upon something. The gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt, the complete gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt, all the gods that you find the ancient Egyptian cult and religion is here. And so again, the cult of Osiris is still prominent during the time of the New Testament. If only you read, if only you understand, you start to realize that you'll read the gospel from a different light. You approach the gospel from a different angle. Okay. I think this is a much better view. Yeah. Hieroglyphs. Learning to read hieroglyphs. But that's not important to the channel. And this is Valley of the Kings. Okay. And this is the complete cities of ancient Egypt. Again, just out of personal interest and curiosity, but it's nothing to do with my channel, so I don't turn to these books to provide any resource. The Orion Mystery, this has been updated by the Egyptian Code. Basically, this is Robert Buffel in the 90s came up with this theory whereby the Orion's belt mirrors that of the three great pyramids, the Giza pyramids. Again, not in particular related to my channel, so you can research that on yourself. I have some ancient, not ancient, I have some books. Some of them are 100 years old, but yeah, Arabic literature and all that jazz. Let's move here. We have the Quran, several mushaf, the Medina mushaf, and some of the Qurans in some of the rooms. Again, I do not need to explain the Quran. Sahih Bukhari, the summarize fiqh, hadith, and some printouts that I have, and some Arabic dictionary. Here I have the tafsir of the Quran. I use online tafsir because it's much easier for me to search, and also save space. I do not have a lot of shelf space, and also it's much better. I can just Command F or Control F, and I can find the discussion. And so I have the complete Ibn Kathir on my computer, and yeah, so I don't depend on physical tafsir. And so yeah, the study Quran is very good if you are just starting to learn the Quran. And also this is the Medina Arabic course for English speaking students. And so again, there are classes, you can find classes on YouTube, and so you can follow along. Okay, I guess we'll move to here. Where do I begin? Okay, so this is the Lost Islamic History, Firas al-Khatib. Important work, Justin Marozi, Islamic Empires. This is my favorite book, the Babur-un-Nama. Again, if you are familiar with the history of the Mughal history, the Mughal throne, Lost Enlightenment, Destiny Disrupted. Again, William Dalrymple, if you are interested about the history of the Mughal history. Again, all these are not necessarily related to my channel, but I enjoy reading them on the side. And so I do not only read books that are related to the New Testament directly or indirectly. I also explore cultures and civilization. Yeah, but I have no interest to make Mughal history videos on my YouTube channel. Maybe inshallah in the future. But my focus, because you can't have too many focus. If you have too broad a focus, you will lose focus. And my focus right now is to actually engage with the New Testament, the Quran, and the Hebrew Bible. But inshallah, in the future, I can go through with you the Islamic history, the different civilization. Actually, I did a map here about all these different civilization, the Abbasid period, the Seljuks, and so just to align some chronology, inshallah, I can share all this. But all these resources are available online. A lot of these resources are also available for free via academia.edu, and so there's no need for me to repeat the research that others had done, which is why I have not made videos, regarding any of this book, because there's a lot of channels already that is making this. Well, you can probably say the same. There's a lot of channel that made videos about the New Testament, so on and so forth. But the different, I would say, the approach of my channel is always to relate between the three Abrahamic scriptures, okay, and how they interact with one another. I think that is the difference of my channel compared to the rest. But again, even that has been done before, and so there's nothing. I'm not bringing anything new, and I'm not bringing anything that is out of the ordinary. I'm just basically most of the time just mimicking what these scholars say. All the materials are just here. Sometimes I would just read from the books, or sometimes I would just read a chapter and then summarize, and that's how I make videos. And that is why my videos sometimes took quite a bit of time to actually do, because I do need to engage in reading before I make these videos, and so it takes me quite a while to read, and so that is why I don't always upload videos. And when I upload, I always upload quite a lengthy videos, because there's just so much to discuss. Like, for example, the lost Islamic history. This goes through from the time of pre-Islam all the way to the current era, and I could spend 2 hours making and narrating to you the entire book. Yeah, but it has been done before, and so a much better use of my time would actually to go through something that it has been done before, but it is not widely made, which is the comparative religion, between especially the books of comparative religion. I mean the scripture of the three Abrahamic religion, and to compare them, okay, and see how they interact with one another. So the Babur Nama, I've read this book 3 times. Again, Babur wasn't always the best of character, but every single thing he does, he acknowledges his wrong. For example, the things that he had done, he acknowledges them, and he hoped for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the character of someone that we should mimic, because he know that he has done the wrong thing by doing, I'm not going to say what he does. You can probably read his memoir for yourself. By the way, the Babur Masjid was actually burned by the Hindus in 1996, but that's beside the point. India in a Persian age. Okay, the desecration of temples wasn't a Muslim invention. It was actually the old Hindus, kings. They used to destroy each other's temple because that would mean that the gods are no longer with them. Aurangzeb Alamgir. Okay, he memorized the Quran. This is a book by Audrey Trashki. He memorized the Quran. He handwritten the Quran, okay, in 3 volumes, and he is also responsible for the Fatwa al-Alamgiri, which is the comprehensive, at the time, in the 16th century, books of fiqh. Now, the last Mughal and the Anarchy, the White Mughal, books by William Dalrymple. Again, I don't think I need to narrate them because they're not related to our videos. I'm just trying to shorten the time that we have here, because we have so much to look at. The Vanished World, Muslim Spain, okay, the Moriscos. The Muslims were forced to eat pork. Okay, they were forced not to make salah, and so again, up until then, today we still have Muslims in Spain. They were exiled to North Africa. Culture of encounter Sanskrit at the Mughal court. The Mughal preserved the Sanskrit language. Okay, again, maybe I'll just show you Babur here, the great caliph, about the Abbasid period, Sashitaro and glorious empire. about how the British changed the Hindu culture. Hindus used to wear hijab, but now they're westernized, and so they forgot about the old practices and culture. Servants of Allah, Wallahi, this is a very, very important work. It talks about the African slaves. Okay, they were put into ships and boats. Okay, crammed, they can't move. Okay, and they were enslaved. And Wallahi, the story, um, may it never be repeated again. It shouldn't happen to anyone, either Muslims or non-Muslims. Okay, the African black slave trades, and also a lot of people forgot that the Russians used to kidnap. Yeah, I would say the Russians, but they wasn't called Russians at that time. But Scandinavians were used to be kidnapped by quote unquote Russians. Yeah, and then they were sold to the Arabs as slaves. Okay, and so again, if we do not read history, we will forget about all these things that humanity has done to each other. We should not repeat them, because all these things are atrocious, and they should not be repeated. Both the three scriptures taught us to love one another. Okay? To be tolerant to one another. We should not kill one another. Muslim society in African history. Again, talk about the Muslims in Africa. The Almoravid and Almohad, the Mongols, great Seljuks. All this by Edinburgh University. Mongols and Mamluks. Okay, the Battle of Ain Jalut, whereby the Egyptian Mamluks stopped the Mongols from coming to Egypt. Okay, and the Mongols will probably destroy the Egyptian civilization. Probably destroy and desecrated, because the Mongols wiped clean. Okay, ancient libraries, they threw them in the river, and so until the Oxus River became tainted with ink, according to ancient historian. The Persians, Iranians, all the way from the past, all the way to the Iranian Revolution in the 70s, talks about all these. Even when Iran was Sunni, before they were Shia. And so a lot of history here. Again, this is by Yale University. I'm sorry I can't pull it out, because then I'll have problems putting them back in. But yeah, let's go down here. Let me put this back. Hopefully this is not boring, because this has nothing to do with my channel. Okay, let me grab a chair. Okay, Salahuddin al-Ayyub. Okay, Saladin the Ayyub by John Mann. This is not the best work. Okay, but Salahuddin, I do not even need to talk about who he is. You probably already know. Sapiens. Okay, a great work, I would say, but it is mostly based on assumption. There's no hard facts to it, though the writings are persuasive. That's why a lot of people like that book. Where is this? Okay, this is culture of and the Orientalism. I have to cover here because there's a naked boy here. Cover that I get. Edward Said, Orientalism. If you do not know about this work, you're missing out. Okay, let's put this aside. The Travels of Ibn Battuta. A very, very important work. He describes his travel. He describes Syria. He describes Egypt. He described a lot of things. Ibn Fadlan, another traveler, actually described how smelly the Scandinavians were. We'll get to that. A very, very important work, Ilan Pape, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. A very, very, very sad history in our human civilization. Today, when we look at the Israel-Palestine conflict, and a lot of us make videos not knowing about the actual history, and because of that, we've actually made matters worse. Okay? And so, turn to works like this and actually understand the history. Why has it always been like this since the 1940s? But in fact, the conflict goes all the way back. Okay. Because again, this helps you understand the Hebrew Bible as well. Because according to the Torah, okay, the book of Genesis, the promised land was actually given by God to Abraham. And the Jews believed that Abraham was the father of the Jews. Okay. But the Quran clarifies this and says that Abraham wasn't a Jew, nor was he a Christian. Okay. In fact, Abraham was a Muslim. He was the one who submitted his will to God. And that is the argument of the Muslims as well. And that is also, ironically, the argument of Paul. And if you read the Pauline letters. Rahil al-Maktoum, the Sealed Nectar, Stories of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is just another edition of it, without the illustration, which is the most famous one. What is it called? The one in Saudi Arabia, the publisher. I forgot. Martin Links. It contains some of these are based on weak hadiths, but nevertheless a very great writer, a very persuasive writer. I mean, he was an English professor of poetry, if I'm not mistaken. So his writings are very persuasive. But if you go online and see some of the corrections made by some scholars about the inauthenticity of the sources he used, apart from that, according to most scholars, his book is actually fantastic job. Ibn Khaldun, the Muqaddimah. Again, if you want to know the history of the Arabs and the history of the Islamic civilization, the culture, which will also help you understand the Quran. The Muqaddimah basically means introduction. The introduction, basically, that's what it means. Ibn Fadlan and the Land of Darkness, his travels in Scandinavia. All these are important memoirs that you need to have. I mean, now I say you need to have, but actually you can just go online and find all this. But if you're someone like me who enjoy physical reading, physical books, then, you know, if you have the means, another version of Ibn Battuta, nevertheless, great memoir. Usama ibn Munkith, another memoir, the Book of Contemplation. This is again, we talk about the Crusades later on. When have I left it out? Oh yeah, no, the book is below. Just give me a second here, guys. Lawrence of Arabia, his memoir, and also an interpretation or a retelling of his life. Again, nothing to do with my channel, so let's put this aside. I mean, we can revisit all these books in the future when I am interested in actually expanding the content of my channel. But for now, I'd like to focus on the three Abrahamic scripture. The Preaching of Islam, again, Thomas Walker Arnold, The Preaching of Islam, an old work. This is, oops, just put it here. Okay, I mean, we'll probably go through all these books some other time. Islam in the West, Slavery and Islam, Sharia, the Republic of Arabic Letters, Ibn Jubair, the role of the Arabic role in medieval literary history. All these important works, and the Arabic language actually changes the European civilization. We do not need to get into that because that is not the interest of my channel. Ibn Khaldun, Woman and Gender in Islam. There's a lot of feminists nowadays that claim, unfortunately Muslim feminists that claim that Islam degrade women, this and that, and so that they use that as a reason to get away from some of these Islamic teachings. But all these works have been written to actually counter that. Islam doesn't actually degrade women. In fact, it gave a lot of priority to women. Okay, and so all these feminists, they just blab their mouth and they don't know anything they're saying. Just because they sound convincing doesn't mean what they say is true. Islamic intellectual history. This is about the scholar, the debates. Okay, the different scholar of the Maghreb, the North African scholar, Morocco, all the way to northwestern Egypt. Ironically, the place where Augustine of Hippo used to live. And so, yeah, this is a great work if you are into fiqh, if you are into the different argument and some other works. This is also the canonization of Islamic law. How did the Islamic law get canonized, and what are the authorities behind all this thing? See, all these studies available. Talk about different mazhab, how did the different four famous school of thoughts when it comes to fiqh got established, and so forth. A history of Islamic political thought, again from the Prophet to present. Again, this is by Edinburgh University. There's so much we can do in the future, inshallah, but I will leave all this to the back burner because you can't focus on too many things. New Zealand, I got this as a gift because I like to travel. But anyway, again, nothing to do with videos. Okay, the Ottoman. What do we call it? Princess, Queen. Okay. Constantine, the last great siege. The battle that actually stopped the Ottoman from expanding all the way to Europe. I mean, the Ottoman reached Europe, but the battle, unfortunately, the Ottoman lost. Okay, but according to Europeans, fortunately, the Ottoman lost the battle. Obviously, Sultan Sulaiman, he lost that battle. If not, he would have expanded all the way to Britain. The life and legend of Sultan Saladin. If you want an authoritative biography of Sultan Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, this is the one by Jonathan Phillips. It's published by Yale University. The Crusade Through Arab Eyes. Now, this is a very important document, important work, because according to according to Western historian, okay, of the Enlightenment, the Crusade was a justification. Okay, it is a justified act. Okay, because Muslims had taken away the land and so on and so forth. We're talking about the promised land. But this work actually documented some of the atrocities that the Crusaders they did, not only to the Muslims, but they did to the Christians that are quote unquote not proto-Orthodox. But we do not need to get into that. How the Ottoman Empire came to be, a very boring book, I would say, but nevertheless a very important work. Now, a lot of Turks will not like this. The Armenian genocide. Okay, the Armenian genocide were not conducted by Muslims. Okay, they were conducted. If you do not know the Armenian genocide, look it up online. But there's a lot of mistaken history whereby the Ottoman Turks actually killed all the Armenians. But these Armenian genocides were actually conducted by a group of quote unquote terrorists. Okay, it wasn't the plan of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, the classical age. I apologize, I should have shown this much closer. Suleiman the Magnificent. This was written in French originally. It was translated into English. If you realize that I have books on Sultan Salahuddin, I have books on Babur, I have books on Aurangzeb, I have books on Sultan Suleiman, that is because these are four of my favorite Sultan. And someday, inshallah, I wish to write a book which narrates these four lives, inshallah, because they are amongst some of the few most influential people in my life. The Mongol Empire, again, so many things can be spoken about the Mongols. They destroyed the Islamic civilization, but they did not destroy Islam. Okay, as the Quran had promised, Islam will never be destroyed. Okay, God will never be defeated. The Mongol queens, well, actually, this is a very twist in the tale. Okay, a lot of people thought that Mongols were ruled by men, but actually Mongols were ruled by the female. Okay, the wives of these Mongol general and kings, they played a very important part in the atrocities caused. Tamerlane, Babur claimed to be descendant of Timur, which is also a descendant of Genghis Khan. Lost Islamic history. This is lost Islamic history. Muslim thinkers. Okay, artists, scientists. Okay, this also goes along with Al-Khalili, Jim Al-Khalili's work, How Arabic Science Saved Ancient Knowledge and Gave Us the Renaissance. And so, yeah. Probably we have to do a part 2 here, ladies and gentlemen. It's already almost 45 minutes. 101 invention of the Muslims. Yeah, coffee, a lot of things. Yeah. You don't have to buy all these books. In fact, you don't have to buy anything. Okay, I'm not here promoting these books. I'm just showing you where I get my knowledge from. And all these are useful as bibliography. Down here, which I will not show you because it is a mess, it is a manuscript upon manuscript. Okay, some of the books on Islam, you can see here, manuscripts. So it's a mess. Okay, we'll try to pull through here and move on to the main section. So this is where we have the Christian literature as well as this Islamic literature behind there. So I have two layers. I have a back layer and the front layer here, and so I'll probably not be able to go through the back layer, to be honest with you, because I'm holding this and it's just too much work. But very fortunately, Alhamdulillah, a lot of the important works are in front here. And so if you just go through the front here, you'll have more than enough what you need to actually get started. I'll just briefly run through you so you can see here what we have. Okay, the front section, the important, if you want to approach Jesus, the story of Jesus from Islamic perspective, Jesus, Prophet of Islam. Yeah, and obviously, if you want to get to polemics, you have the choice by Sheikh Ahmad Didat, the late Sheikh Ahmad Didat. This study, Two Gods in Heaven, okay, changes the complexion of how the just recent scholarship actually thought about, well, not, it was brought up before in the past, but recently scholarship began to take this on board. Whereas this is confirmed in the Quran as well. A lot of Muslims thought that Jews of the past worship one God, and this is the claim of Jews as well. But studies have shown that actually no, not all Jews worship one God in the past. Okay, some Jews of the past were polytheists in a sense, were pantheists. Yeah, they're not monotheists. Two Gods in Heaven, for example, Peter Schaeffer. Some Christians, evangelists, actually welcome this wholeheartedly. Okay, they thought that this can be used to prove that Jesus is part of the Trinity. Okay, but they forgot the point that it says two gods, not three gods. But anyway, John's transformation of Mark, again another study which I hope to do, inshallah. Ancient philosophy, again, a lot of us actually need to understand ancient philosophy. Once you understand ancient philosophy, you start to realize that the Trinity is model based on ancient philosophy, in particularly the Neoplatonist thought and philosophy, which is why understanding ancient philosophy is very important. If you do not have the time or the what we call it, the background knowledge to engage in academic books, especially this is written by Oxford, you can actually go through, understand ancient philosophy. This one, okay, this will actually help you, although it will not help you in fully understanding or grasping what we are dealing with when it comes to the Trinity. But read that book first before you read this book. Okay, as a step by step. I'm not saying that you're not smart, but you do need to develop your knowledge. Take baby steps. Okay, crawl before you walk and before you run. The Imam of the Christians, a very interesting work. Okay, the Imam of the Christians basically means that a lot of these Christians, okay, the Nestorian Christians, ever since the advent of Islam, they actually started writing against Islam. They thought that Islam was a Christian heresy. Okay, but some of them actually embraces Islam, and they actually wrote in Arabic, Islam and Christianity, theological themes in comparative perspective. Okay, if you do not want to read the Quran or the New Testament, and you want to know what are the themes and what are the disagreement and agreement between Islam and Christianity, then this is the work for you. Dale Martin, New Testament History and Literature. Again, this is Introduction to the New Testament. The Idea of Israel in the Second Temple Judaism. Now, if you do not know what the Second Temple Judaism is, I've made videos on that, I believe. I go through the history about how David wanted to build a temple to Yahweh, but Solomon built the temple instead, and then it got destroyed. The northern kingdom of Israel got destroyed, and the southern kingdom of Judah remains, and then even that got destroyed. And then when the Syrians came, Cyrus the Great, actually the Jews were able to return from Babylon back to the promised land, but they are always under foreign power ever since. The apocryphal gospel, a lot of people thought that there's only 4 gospels, but no, there's 40 gospels. Okay, the apocryphal gospels present the remaining gospels, and some of these gospels are contemporary with the 4 gospels. For example, we have a gospel of Peter, which is the companion of Jesus. But why wasn't gospel of Peter in the canon of the New Testament? Why? We have the gospel of Thomas, the disciples of Jesus. But why was Luke? And who was Luke? Luke wasn't anybody close to Jesus. Okay. And why was Paul's writing inside? Paul never met Jesus. And so, why wasn't the gospel of Mary inside, the mother of Jesus? And so, that is a question for you to ponder upon. Even though I know the answer why they're not included, but you have to find out for yourself. The composition of the Pentateuch, Joel S. Baden, great scholar, a graduate of Harvard University. He documented the documentary hypothesis. Okay, this is about the documentary hypothesis, different sources. A companion to this would be, you do need a source. Unfortunately, it's probably at the back. I can't remember the name of the scholar, but he wrote he translated the Pentateuch with different sources. Probably, if I remember, I'll say them. Mary and the Fathers of the Church. Okay, written by a Catholic priest, translated into English. If you want an introduction to the Jewish Bible, okay, Sinai and Zion, 2 of the holiest mountain in Judaism. The Bible and the Quran. Okay, this is about the prophet. Okay, for example, we have Haman. Okay, the prophet Yajud and Majud, Gog Magog, God. Okay, Uzair, Ezra, Elias, Elijah. Okay, David. Okay, the emphasis is on the Islamic prophet. Eastern Orthodox theology. Okay, a lot of Christians do not know that there's Protestantism, Catholicism, and also the Eastern Orthodox. The Eastern Orthodox is completely different, a different religion, even though they are under they believe in the Trinity, but it is a different religion when it comes to the practices. Okay, when it at least comparing it to the Protestant. Participation in God. Quran rebukes the Christian idea, okay, of participation in God. Basically, God shares his powers with somebody else, or somebody else is participating in his divine decree, which is why we have Surah Ikhlas. It's emphasizing, stressing that God is alone. Okay, he is Ahad, and no one else like him. The Greek grammar by Bill Mounds, not the best, and also, I've made videos about this. I don't want to keep making videos about this book, but if you just want a Greek primer, this is actually the one. To accompany that, you have the workbook. Okay, you have the workbook, and there are lessons online which you can follow. Okay, if not, you'll not know what you're doing. Again, Journey to Heavens and Hell. Baraman is releasing a new book, Armageddon. Forgery and Counter-Forgery. This is the academic version when it compared to Forge, another book of his. Evangelical Introduction to the New Testament, Evangelical Concordance. I've reviewed this. Evangelical as well. You start to realize that I have one of my goals for 2022 was actually to read more evangelical works, and so I have been reading and I have been following up on them, and I'll do a comparison between the different introduction to the New Testament. Lexicon, obviously this is a Greek lexicon, the authoritative Greek lexicon. There's lexicon in here as well. Okay, the concordance. Lexicon basically means dictionary, if you do not know. Briefly here, you can't see, I apologize, but Magnific Vision of the Quran, the top one. Okay, Usul Hadith, where Hadith come from, and so on and so forth. This is the book Imam Al-Ghazali or Ghazal in the West, The Incoherence of Philosopher. No one can beat Imam Ghazali when it comes to this. No one can beat him. Ibn Rose, or what is it? Ibn Rushd, tried to refute him in the 14th century, but failed miserably. What do we have here? Again, Christian philosophical thought. Great work. Talk about the Trinity, so that you do not misrepresent the people that you disagree with. Okay. Some of my friends will probably think that you're wasting all your savings, because I do have savings set aside to buy books every single month. Some say that you're actually wasting your money, but it is necessary, in my opinion, to actually understand the people that you disagree with completely. I completely disagree with the Trinity. I oppose the Trinity, but I do not just oppose based on hearsay. I actually read what the Trinity is actually about, and I actually understand better than some of the Christians that I've engaged with when it comes to the Trinity. Some of them don't even know the doctrine of the Trinity, and when you explain to them, they don't believe that this is actually monotheistic religion. And so you got someone thinking there. That is a much better approach. I have Raymond Brown abridged version, which I've reviewed. Okay, we have two more sections. Last one, so about 2.5. Inshallah, we can cover this. Again, I'll probably have to come back in the future and do at the back. It's just too much. The Jewish Study Bible, the Hebrew Study Bible, Introduction to the New Testament, Raymond Brown. I've changed my mind, actually. I think Raymond Brown is the best. I know a couple of videos ago I made about Roman introduction as the best, but Raymond Brown, I think, is the best for now. Okay, I changed my mind. So Raymond Brown is the best. The Orthodox Corruption of Scripture, the Ecumenical Council of the Catholic Church, okay, the 7 Council of the Church, background of early Christianity, talk about the social, political, historical context, the gods, the search for the Christian doctrine of God. Again, the best work when it comes to works about the Trinitarian controversy. Raymond Brown commentary, the Anchor Yale Bible series, the Word of the New Testament, the text of the New Testament. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll stop here. I'll probably do a part 2 after this, because it is time for Salah, and so I'll come back with a part 2, inshallah.